Welcome everyone, and I'm sorry for my tech challenges that delayed me, but it's good to see all 16 of you here, and welcome to Center for Coaching and Organizations Growth Rings. We do these events, they're free events to our worldwide CCO community, and they happen every 2 months. So you'll find another one coming up July 21st. But before I get much further in this, I want to just let all of you know that there is an opportunity on Zoom. If you ever find that participating is better with live transcription, a lot of you know this already, but in case you don't, at the bottom of your screen, there's the little CC icon and the live transcript. If you click that, which you might even want to play with right now, you'll find a little box opens. At the bottom of that box is what you want to click, which says Enable Live Transcript. So if that helps, use it. If it becomes totally distracting, which on occasion it does for me, then just turn the sucker off and rejoin us. So this is not just Growth Rings, but this is International Coaching Week. And I just love for you to wave a hand or throw something in the chat. Yes, and there is the party parrot. Crystal will often show you a party parrot. Tell us if you've been in the chat, if you've been to any International Coaching Week events so far this year. Would love to see if any of you have. I've told you that this is an event that happens every other month or every 2 months, but we also have other events that happen. You can always find them on our website under the events tab. It'll open up. It's amazing, Google Calendar, and within it you will find links. So if you ever find yourself going, oh my gosh, I know they sent me an email. Where the heck's the email? Where's the Zoom link? Go to the website, you will find it, unless it's some separate special thing for which you had to register. And then you still aren't out of luck. You can find us, we will help. The other thing you'll find on there mentioned, and some of you may already know about it, is our ECHO open houses or information sessions. ECHO is our executive coaching and organizations program, which we also love to call the Everyone Coaching and Organizations program and the Empowering Coaching and Organizations program, because it does all of that. It's really been transformational, and actually we've got some of our alumni on the call, and if you want to pop in a thumbs up or a hey, yes, it transformed my life, you can. I am not paying them. We have never paid them. And Diller has just put in, we call him Diller because we've had so many Chris's go through our program. Diller has put our website and the ECHO link in there. If you just want to hang out, you just want to hear about this program, come join us. Sometimes we sit around and we chat about all sorts of things. Other times we spend our whole time answering questions. But would love to see you on an open house. And if it's a good fit for you, we'd love to see you in cohort 8, which launches with orientation in August. Let's see. You can sign up for our mailing list if you aren't already on it, on the website. You can get the events there. You can learn about ECHO there. You can learn about all sorts of things, including the fact that we're a 501c3 that is on a mission to transform organizations and the people in them through the power of coaching. One of the ways that we also operate is we always try to give you a little extra, and the little extra today is the fact that this program is approved for ICF CEUs and SHRM CEUs. And Diller's gonna pop, and that's largely thanks to Cynthia McKee, who is on my screen over there. She is our CEU maven, and Diller's going to put a form in the chat. He'll drop it again at the end of the program. Just complete that. That'll get you on the list for getting the CEU acknowledgement. But now I want to move into what's really important, and that's Jeff Stagss. Jeff Stagss is a presenter today. He's also our ECHO program director. And, you know, the usual things I'm supposed to say, oh yeah, he's an ICF master certified coach, one of the first ones there ever was. He's been coaching for decades. He coaches leaders all around the globe. He has. And that's all true, but that's only part of it. The other thing is he has become our most cherished grand poobah of all things coach training. we could call him the program director. We prefer to call him the Grand Poobah. And he even has a sticker, a little badge that he can wear, but he doesn't, because he doesn't flaunt things like that. The other thing is he is an absolute committed community member. He loves all things family. He loves all things furry, like a big fluffy white dog named Jasper, and a rather, I was going to say huge, but I would say Tigger is a beyond huge cat. And that is Tigger, actually. And you can't even tell in that picture how huge Tigger is. And he and his wife, Kara, are also community. How do I want to put this? They're creating like a spot of community, a welcoming community that's beyond either of their work platforms, but it is a welcome to the neighborhood that they've recently moved into in South Minneapolis. And that's powerful, because one of the things it speaks to is one of the things that moves me most about having Jeff as a friend, and that's his commitment to looking at his own point of view and all the things that formed that worldview, and to look back and say, how have I been acculturated? What have I learned? Where did I learn it? Is it useful? Not just is it useful to me, but is it useful to the people around me and the impact I want to have in the world? And there is a humility that comes with that. And there is a quest for understanding mindset. And that's why we're delighted to welcome Jeff onto the stage at this point to talk to you about the coaching mindset in action.
Thank you, Bev. I really appreciate your introduction and appreciate you. Let me share my screen here. It is just a delight to be here. And this is, the second in the mindset series that I've started doing. The first one was at the summit. And I don't know, how many of you were at the summit and saw that series? Raise your hand. A few of you. If you haven't, I'm going to give you an overview, but you can also, there's a link that was with the invitation where you can get that if you want to review that. And we put it up really cheap. It's like $15, and all that money goes to funding scholarship, because we're really committed to, providing access to coaching to a lot of different people. So this mindset in action is the second part of the series, and mindset is a passion of mine, because as I've been working with training coaches over the years, what is it that's the biggest challenge for people? Because there's this hump that people need to get over in learning to be a coach, and how they move from where they've been to moving into the coaching mindset. The other part of that is I've been involved with ICF from the very beginning. I'm actually one of the founders. I'm credited with that. I had a modest part in it. It took a community to do it. But when we first created the competencies, mindset was not one of them. And so I love seeing that we're maturing as an organization, and that now mindset comes into the picture, because it's one of the absolute most critical pieces of how we show up as a coach. So as we're going to be in community here together, just real quick, some of our principles are to start with questioning and leading, invest in quality relationships. I'll let you kind of skim this. And this is from our summit and how we engage online. The bottom line is, let's be open and respectful to each other as we engage, because that's what it is to really engage our mindsets here. Where I want to go today in our time, we've got an hour and a half, and I want to give you an overview of the coaching mindset presentation. I'm going to just go over the top of that, just so we're all on the same page. And then I want to go into mindsets and think about, what is your greatest temptation as a coach based on the polarities? Like, where do you get pulled? A dear friend of mine who founded the Coaches Training Institute, Laura Whitworth, she used to call it our occupational hazard. Like, where do we kind of fall off the wagon easily as a coach? So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to go into putting the threefold mindset model into action and work give you a chance to work with your own mindset as a coach, but also to work with the mindset of your client. So it's going to be kind of a dual track practice here today. And so I'm going to run into this, and I want to make sure I give you enough time to practice. So here we go. As we go along, feel free to put any questions or comments in chat, and Chris Diller is going to monitor that for me. And Chris, you just speak up if there's something to pay attention to there, because one of the things that Bev didn't tell you is I'm terrible at multitasking. So I can't watch the chat, chew gum, and do this presentation at the same time. So here we go. So what is mindset anyway? And for me, it's when you look out, it's been a quest of mine to really start thinking, like, what is mindset actually? Because it's not something you can put your hands on. You're not something you can see. It's not something you can touch. And when you go to the internet and you research it, you Google it, basically you find the, I just lost it. Bev, what's the mindset that's out there? Carol Dweck, the growth mindset. And that's all you see. It's like growth mindset is all there is, and there's no other mindset. But the truth of the matter is, this is what mindset is like. It's the invisible ground on which we stand. Like this person, I love this picture because it looks like they're walking on water, but there's something they're actually walking on. And that's like mindset for me. It's like we're always grounded in our mindset, but we can't see it. And so in my last presentation, I went through a long thing about how do we make it visible. And I'm gonna just cover the basics here real quick so we're all on the same page. So first, often one mindset that is most common is the problem focus. So that's one mindset. And I'm going to do this because this one shows up in organizations most often. We focus on what's the problem, how do we address it, and some of the assumptions underneath it, like the internal part. If we look at what underneath the hood of this mindset, one of the assumptions or beliefs is solutions plus action equals results. We can reduce it down to that. Another is it tends to be focused at the external and the objective that we can see, touch, and feel. Objects. It turns everything into objects, actually, even people. And problems exist out there in the world. But the reality is problems, and I love this question, is how do problems get created? Well, if there's no human consciousness, there is no problem, period, end of story. There's no human consciousness present, there is no problem. So that means it's in our mindset that it creates the problem. That's how they're formulated. We formulate the problems in our mindset. So juxtaposing this problem-focused mindset, that's the foundation of the coaching mindset, is the person focus. So this first dimension in the threefold mindset model that I put together here is, where do we focus? We can either focus on the problem or we can focus on the person. And when we focus on the person, knowing that mindset, that problems are created in the mind, basic assumption of this person-focused mindset is that new mindset equals new options. If you change your mind, you change what's possible. So this is dimension one. And what we can do here, whoops, now it's not clicking. It was clicking. So what I'm asking you to do is you can go to your annotate at the very top of your screen. You can click on the annotate and you can click on a stamp. And the stamp will let you put a stamp on the screen. And if you look at if you're really honest with yourself, when you're in front of a client, or if you're a leader, if you're working with somebody and they start talking about the problem, where do you naturally gravitate to? Is it to the problem and the content, or do you naturally dive deep into how the person is showing up? So be honest and put your mark on here, just so we see where everybody is. And this assessment will be kind of useful for you. And to kind of, as we go forward, to kind of diagnose, like, where might your temptation be too? So when I'm at my best, I'm totally focused on the person. But when I get into a situation that I've seen a lot before, that I know the answer to, guess what? After 30 some years of coaching, I can still kind of get seduced by the problem if I'm not aware. So love that people are being honest and we aren't all at fives there, because I don't think we are. Okay. All right. Chris, what do I do when my cursor, I lost my cursor and I can't get my cursor here?
I think if you click the mouse button in the annotate toolbar, that'll get you back, and I can clear the drawings if you need to, or if you're going to have another one, I'll leave them up.
Why don't you clear it?
And Jeff,
and I can't. I have no cursor.
Yeah, there is. While you're looking for your cursor, there is a question in the chat. Sabra's asking. Yeah. I get distracted focusing on limitlessness of options. Is that more problem focused?
That may be problem focused.
Yeah, that's a little tricky, isn't it? It's not problem focused, but obsessed with solutions. It seems more problem focused to me too. So thanks.
Yeah. So this, if you're, if we're trying to focus on the solution of something, that's a problem focus. Like, what is the solution here? What is it? You start going from the problem to what generating solutions.
Yep. I get that.
And Chris, I'm going to see if I can go out of my PowerPoint. Oh, there we go. Now I'm back on. Okay, I got my cursor back. I figured out how to get my cursor back. Nope, but I got to exit PowerPoint because it's not letting me do it. And lost my and I'm going to go back. So that's a great question, though. If I'm focused on solutions, that's part of the problem. Solution problem. The other side of that is, if I'm focused on the person, I'm focused on. So what are the patterns I'm seeing in their thoughts? What are the emotions that are showing up? How are they being present with me, and what are they focused on with me? And how are they narrating or talking about what's most important to them in our conversation? What are they paying attention to? So notice I'm not even focusing on the content per se, or what's there. So the second dimension here is how do we engage the person in part of this as this mindset? And here we have it. If we're providing direction or providing solutions or suggestions, and Tigger is obsessed here, my cat that I showed you earlier, with jumping on the desk. And when we focus here, we tend to, there's a belief that the concept, if I give the person the concept, the answer, they're going to be competent and they can go do it. That tends to be how our education system works too. And I love this photo, this image here, because it really points to how we focus from a coaching mindset is we open awareness, we are in an inquiry, and we help the person to have an experience, a direct experience. It's like we get them on the bike to learn how to ride it. We don't give them engineering diagrams. So think about this one for yourself. Are you seduced by providing direction or solutions or great ideas because you can see what they could do? Or do you have the muscle that you developed to be focused on how to create awareness, how to, asking questions, making observations about what you're seeing? So the belief here is that direct experience equals knowledge. So where would you put yourself here? So again, you can use the annotate and just quickly assess for yourself. Here you go, on the second dimension. Where do you fall? And, think about too, in terms of how your usual mindset, when you're not aware versus when you're really aware, where can you get pulled? Because it varies for me. I know with my kids, I tend to default to the left side sometimes because I have an attachment to the outcome with my kids. With my clients, I'm pretty good on the right side. So my temptation, depending on the context, is different. So good, take a look. None of us are a Jedi master at this yet at 5, as a friend of ours, Shirzad Shamin, would say. So the last dimension, if you can clear that, Chris, so that'd be great. Glad you have the power in the background. So the last dimension in our model is, being a commitment to outcomes. So like really focused on the outcome and making sure there was a result, or being a commitment to the person and their agenda. It could be either one of those. When we're focused on being a commitment to outcomes, that's like, this is the being of how we're showing up. Like we're committed to the performance, we're focused on performance, we're focused on getting a result. And remember, with this mindset, people become objects. They're a means to an end and a means to solving the problem, versus focusing on the person, focusing on their growth, which is where we focus here, is growing the person and being a commitment to who they are. And we could spend a whole bunch of time on these, but I'm giving you a quick overview here. So notice that when we focus on this right side, and I'm going to just pull these all in, focusing from the coaching mindset, you get growth. And because you shift mindset, you also get results. So you get everything on the left side, except the downside of the left side, when you focus on the right side of the coaching mindset. So with this one, for yourself, because this is going to set up our practice, where do you tend to fall?
لغايه دلوقتي اللي اتعرفت عليهم غير الناس اللي لسه داخله.
So where do you tend to fall? Do you tend to get pulled towards focusing on the outcome and the result and making sure your client gets value, so you're trying to get them to their result in the session or in their work or at work? Or are you really focused on their growth and the person and being a commitment to them?
Can I ask a
So
question?
good.
What do you mean by being a commitment to them?
So my being a commitment is like, it's first and foremost, before you're thinking about results, is you are committed to that person, what their outcomes are, what they're trying to achieve, to their humanity, to supporting them and being a support to them and their growth and what they're trying to achieve personally as well as professionally. Particularly as a leader, the example of that, I had a client who in 30 years, his feedback from direct reports was exponentially better than anybody else I've ever seen. I mean, these people would walk through walls for him. One person left a job to come work for him because they all know that even if they're not getting the result, or they've made a mistake, he's an absolute commitment to who they are as a person, and he's going to support them and have their back. Period, end of story, there's no question. He's the kind of guy that if something happens in their family, he'll cry before they do, because he's willing to be that authentic and caring for them as a person. So does that answer your question? Great. The other side is, you've probably been with people who all they care about is the outcome. They don't focus on the person and they just want the result. And that gets results, but in the short term, but it doesn't create an organization or the relationship with the person where they can be at their best. And it's not necessarily going to grow the person. You generate fear. So that's our overview. Any quick questions here before we go into how we're going to apply this? Because I do want to get to the action part of this, since this is coaching mindsets in action. All right, with no questions here, we're going to go through. So one of the things, the first thing I want you to consider here, because I want to set up a practice for us here. And I actually want to do a demonstration also here shortly. So I want you, as a coach, because this is going to be a dual practice. As a coach, we're going to have a chance to be the coach and practice something for ourselves. And then we're going to be working with the client's mindset as well. So we're going to work with mindset on two levels. So first, note for yourself, like, on what dimension is your greatest temptation? And be honest with yourself. And, you might go to, do you focus on the problem? Yeah, I'm pretty good with asking questions and stuff, but I get pulled to giving solutions. Just where is it for you? Because that's what I'm going to ask you to work with. And how we work with that is, okay, so, and I'd like you to post that in chat. This is a reminder for me to post your temptation in chat. So we all know what our temptations are, and we're sharing that with everybody. And we'll see that there'll be some commonality and there'll be some differences too. And put it in your own words too. And feel free to put it in your own language too, if that's easier, because we have an international group here, and I don't want to assume that we all need to speak English here. And particularly because sometimes it's easier to express yourself in your own language and to know what you're talking about. And it's for you to put it in chat and not for me to know necessarily. It's for you. So any themes there, Chris?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of temptation towards solutions, providing direction, actions and accountability, solutions, the organization's view of outcome and miss the personal growth, solutions.
Great. Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. So here's the next question here. What is the antidote that you will practice? So if it's solutions, it's like, how do you move to like really deep listening and only asking questions? Or even only asking short questions might be the antidote that have the client absolutely do the work. So it might be like question like, so what do you see here? What are your thoughts? Tell me some more about what you're seeing for yourself. So those are all questions that might simplify and are aligned with the coaching mindset. So the antidote is always going to be to move towards the coaching mindset on one of these dimensions. It might be that the antidote for you for solutions is actually to go focus on the person in some way and notice like the micro movements in their eyes and just pay close attention to that and be really curious about that. Or it might be to move towards, what is their agenda and asking about them that first. So write down, what is it that you're going to practice here in our exercise? And as you're, okay. So I'll let you do that. And so now, this is for the people. So we're going to have a coach and we're going to have a client in this exercise. So what we were just talking about is what's your temptation if you're the coach and what you're going to practice. This is the topic for the person who's going to be the client or be coached is, what is your greatest challenge in coaching? Now that might be your temptation. you know, and if you're a leader, it might be, and you're not a coach, it might be, what is your greatest challenge in developing others? If you have a direct report or your peer, like, what is your greatest challenge? And if none of these speak to you, just what is your greatest challenge that you want to work with here? So that's for who you as a client. You want to be noting that for yourself, and everybody's going to get a turn to be a client, and everybody's going to get a turn to be a coach. Now, what I want to do here is to do a demonstration of what we're going to do. And so you know what we're going to do. This is how we make mindset visible is this simple model. It's simple, but I think it's very profound. Is first, we're going to ask the person, like, so what's the story you're telling yourself? As you ask about the challenge, and like, so tell me what your challenge is. Now, what's the story? What are you telling yourself? And then be curious about, okay, what are the beliefs or assumptions underneath that? And what I do is I actually have the client write this down in columns for themselves so they can see it, because it's really powerful when they can see how they're thinking, how their mindset starts to get exposed. And then, okay, who am I being when I'm telling this story and I have these beliefs? Am I empowered? Am I feeling like the underdog? Am I being the boss? Am I being like the good subordinate? Am I being, like the compliant person? Like, who am I being? Am I being the expert when I'm doing solutions? So any of those are possible. And then what are the observable behaviors that you see in this situation where you're challenged? And we're going to post this in the chat too when we get into our groups, or you can take a screenshot if you like. And one of the observable behaviors is too, what's my internal self-talk? To note that. And then the last dimension is, so when I tell this story, when I have these beliefs, who am I be, and I'm being this person, and these are the behaviors I engage in, what are the results? What are the outcomes? And one of those is our emotions, because the story we tell, our beliefs and assumptions impact us at an emotional level. They have impact on others, and we have certain outcomes. So we might get what we want, but the other person goes away mad, and I feel frustrated. Might be an example. Or it might be that, I don't get the outcome I want. The person feels really good because I've supported them, and I still feel frustrated because we didn't get the outcome. Okay, so you'll find, well, I won't say anything more about this, but I want to do a little short demonstration about this and how we work through this, so you have a sense of this. So with that, I'm going to need a volunteer who'd be willing to play with me here. This is where everybody jumps forward, and it's hard to count the hands, I've noticed. And it's like, it's mayhem, because everybody wants to be the client, because that's where they get the most value and most learning. It happens every time. No, see all the hands? Oh, no hands. What are we going to do?
I'll do
right,
it.
Cynthia.
Okay.
Sabra? Why don't we,
Yes,
Sabra, why don't we work together? Because I know Sabra.
Mhm.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And where are you located?
I am in Chattanooga, Tennessee, USA.
Right, great. So tell me a little bit about the problem or the challenge that you identified for yourself.
In the coaching or in the developing others?
In the developing others side, the second question, like.
Okay, perfect. Because I currently am in an HR role where I do lead a team. And I have a very strong inclination toward seeing potential in others. And the problem that I have is that I may over positively look at that potential. I may over-index the
Okay.
potential of some members of my team. I may subconsciously assign aspiration, ability, or engagement to
Okay.
people on my team.
Okay. So what might make this really impactful is to focus on, like, just choose one member of your team where you know that's probably the case,
Got it.
to make it more specific. Okay. So with this person, what's the story you're telling yourself? Like, like about the situation, about their potential, et cetera?
The story I'm telling myself is that he has the potential to be a people leader, and because he wants to be a people leader, it's up to me to get him there, to have him get it, and so we'll stop there.
Okay, so you might want to note some of this down, like in columns on a piece of paper as we go, and just whatever notes help you to track some of the things you're saying.
Okay.
Just let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. So if we kind of think about that story, like you're telling yourself, what are some of the beliefs or assumptions that you're holding?
I think in there is the assumption that it is my responsibility for people to grow and develop if they report to me.
Yeah. And what other assumptions might be behind that one?
Well, where I wouldn't want to go would be that if they don't develop, perhaps I'm not quite competent, and I don't want to really look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what's the assumption or belief behind that? If that were to happen?
Yeah, that they could have gotten to where they needed to go if I weren't their leader.
Yeah. Anything else that stands out when you hear yourself articulate those beliefs?
That it's not backed by experience. A lot of people have developed into, stronger roles when I was their leader. So there's really not based on evidence. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's this belief there, but you're also seeing that there's no evidence for it.
Right.
That's one of the things that seeing these mindsets is helpless. So when you're telling yourself this story, and you're coming from that set of beliefs, Sabra, who are you being?
I am being possibly a caretaker, or possibly putting pressure, and I don't know how to describe it, but possibly intense in my pursuit of helping. Maybe overly directive at times, because I don't want them to make mistakes or fail and get discouraged.
I also hear in there, you don't want to fail.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're being somebody who is avoiding failure here. Does that resonate? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's an observation I'd have hearing you here.
Yes. So it resonates in that I don't want to be a failure, in particular, in a way that impacts someone else. Yeah.
Just notice that, and notice how that sits with you. I kind of feel that land for you. Yeah. So given that, I'll let you're taking a note, so I'll just wait for you. You just let me know.
I'm good.
So what are the behaviors that you observe in that situation with this direct report? the behaviors you observe, but also this internal self-talk as a behavior.
Maybe some inconsistency with leadership. And if there's a lot going on, I am very present and checking in a lot. But if there's not, I tend to give a lot of room and space. I think that I tell myself that's strategic, but I'm wondering if it's a little bit to manage my own concern or anxiety about it. So, yeah, I observe.
Yeah. And my guess is you're probably not always being the one who's avoiding risk, but when you are, what are the behaviors or the self-talk when you're trying to make sure they succeed?
I think I would provide too much guidance, more guidance than someone would necessarily need. In other words, things like proofreading an email. He'll say, hey, can you proofread this before I send it to a director or VP? And I might edit when it was probably fine. And I don't think that builds his confidence in his own ability versus his confidence in mine. So
so that's one of the outcomes here is the impact is it. How would you just state that? Like it doesn't build his competence or confidence. I think is what you said.
Right. It runs the risk of sabotaging exactly what I'm wanting to do is build his confidence in his ability as a leader.
And what other outcomes or impacts do you observe?
It increases the behavior of him checking in with me versus just pulling the trigger and doing what he needs to do.
Would it be fair to say that builds dependence?
Yes.
And what emotions does that cycle kind of elicit for you? What's your sense of your emotion? Because that's an impact on you.
Increases my stress level, and there's a lot of it. There's pride when he gets kudos for something that that he did. He gets that visibility. And I helped him not him look really good. So there's mixed emotions. So I kind of get something out of it, right? I kind of
get some payoffs.
I kind of get something out of it, but it's at a great risk.
And so there's a risk and there's a payoff.
Right.
It's both. And that's kind of human. We like kudos for when we support somebody and we feel good. And there's a downside in this situation and how you're doing it, it sounds like.
Yeah, so the short term, it's kind of creates dependency. And I am focused on the long-term goal of creating visibility and his brand. So it's kind of a trade-off.
Yeah, and then his brand is dependent on you supporting him.
Could be. Yeah.
So when you look at your notes and you kind of see how the story and the assumptions and identity behaviors and the outcomes all line up, what are you more aware of?
I'm aware of where my good intentions could result in some sabotage, actual sabotage. I mean, the intention is good. The approach needs work. I need to take a step back looking at this story to explore what ways would create more confidence and independence and autonomy at the same time.
One thing I like to point out here is when you look at it, notice it works perfectly. It's not broken. When you follow the path from the story to the beliefs to who you're being and the behavior, it all flows. It works every time in the same direction, doesn't it?
Really
to get
does.
These results. So here's the question I want to ask you now is, well, I just asked you what you're more aware of, but the second question is, for people that ask as we're coaching here, is what small shift, like when you look at each of those columns, what small shift would have the greatest impact in the outcomes?
Starting with a commitment to extend trust and the behaviors that go with a leader who extends trust, that if he fails, he can handle it. If he succeeds, he owns it. And I am there to get the lessons from both of those. That's a shift from maybe some of the management behaviors.
Well, you're pointing to behavior, but what you're articulating is a belief.
Right. That's, yeah.
Notice you're way upstream. So you're articulating a belief that I can trust that he can take responsibility and own the failures and own the successes.
Yeah.
And that's going to grow him, I think, is kind of the other assumption that's in there. But that's
Yes.
the most powerful way to grow him.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a more healthy commitment.
Yeah. So how does it feel, like, just sense into that, if that was your commitment, that you came from that belief, that mindset? How would it flow from there, do you think?
How would it flow?
Yeah, like, I mean, your behavior and how you're showing up and the results and stuff.
Yeah, I'm imagining that I'm more of a presence and a resource and a true source of leadership for him in ways that don't take responsibility from him.
Yeah, and might be a healthy challenge to him, it sounds like, as well.
Yes, coming
Yeah.
from a good place. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So is this a good place to stop? Because I want to keep it fairly simple here for the sake of time.
I like what I walked away with.
Great. Fantastic. So I want to point out to people, notice that when you could focus on behavior, but if you don't change the mindset, you're probably not going to get a change in the result over time, where it's not going to be sustainable. But if you focus on one small shift at the mindset level, the impact can be huge for Sabra. Because then she knows what to do to be that person, and you don't have to be prescriptive about the behaviors. So getting to mindset has profound implications, because that's where the source of how she was doing things was. So you change the source versus the symptom. And my guess is, Sabra, you can feel that, the shift.
Mm-hmm. I can.
Yeah.
I actually can.
Yeah. So we took about 10 minutes for that. We kept it simple. We didn't have to go into a lot of detail, but just enough for her to be able to see her mindset in action there. Let's see here, where did I? So I'm gonna, let's see, okay, nope, I'm gonna go backwards here. So we're gonna put you into groups. You're gonna have about 20 minutes, so about 10 minutes per person. And notice I kept it really simple. And this, Chris is going to put this chart in the breakout rooms. So as the coach, practice your antidote, whatever that is. So that's one practice. You're practicing that and just supporting your client to work on whatever challenge they're bringing with this. So maybe we'll set it for like 22 minutes, Chris, for the breakout room, and give them a little bit because they got to connect a little bit. Okay, any questions before we go? You have about 10 minutes one way, 10 minutes the other way. and you can choose how to use your time.
I would add, I hope everyone's here, but there may be someone who stepped away from their computer for a little while. If you find you're in a breakout room alone, by all means, come back to the main room and we'll get you assigned to another room.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Here we go. So welcome back, everybody. Would love to hear, we have time for some discussion and questions, like how did your coaching go? What did you discover? Feel free to put anything in chat or raise your hand and
Wonderful. So I just got finished grading an undergraduate class, and so I'm in professorial mode. Carol, would you unmute yourself and tell me how it went for you?
Thank you,
Bev. Yes, thank you, Bev. You're so awesome.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I was in the group where we were all the folks that did not have a partner. And so ended up to be 3 of us. And so we just took some time on the front end to do some introductions, and we're a little tardy getting started. And so we ended up just doing one coaching session, and I was the client and Chandra was the coach. And, it was a good experience. I love the framework of this model, right? It just sort of helps kind of really shift from a behavior to a mindset, and like what thing, just explore further what we can do when we, with whatever might be. So I was the client, and my deal, Bev, you might know this from your experience with me, is that I sometimes lean on my experience when coaching, right? And so I just still have to be super mindful of that. And one of the things, and I think that I've learned over time, is how do I set up coaching, right? Is what am I doing before I start that coaching session? I think helps me make sure that I don't deliver during that coaching piece. And I think that's what kind of came alive as we went through our coaching piece. So it wasn't necessarily as much of, because I think I've mastered the what do I do while I'm in the coaching piece, but it was more about how do I, what are the steps before I enter that room or enter that Zoom call? What am I doing to get in the right frame?
Yeah. And I hope this was helpful in supporting you to be more aware of what you're doing to get into that frame.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Other people, what are you more aware of now, either with your challenge and your own mindset, or from, for your coaching?
Jeff, I have a question.
Great.
I'm curious your thoughts on the theory or way of thinking, behaving your way into a new way of thinking. As it's often talked about in terms of like building habits and such. Like you change the
fake it till you make it.
Yeah. What do you think about that, and how does that play into this, if at all?
It's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
I mean, look at diets and things where people focus on behaviors and focus on, okay, I'm just going to eat this food and things. And you can get change, but from what I've observed, it's not sustainable often. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it works like a charm for some people, but then they say, this is the way it works. And it often doesn't work for everybody. In this way, you help the person discover what are they doing? What's their unique structure to how they're creating their results in their own mindset and their own thought pattern. And if you can help them to see that, then you can help them to shift it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can shift that for themselves, then they can change the behaviors pretty easily. But it still takes practice, because it may not click and stay that way. But if they keep coming back to that mindset and a different story for themselves, it's much easier to do than just trying to focus on the behavior when you don't know what the ground is you're standing on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm on board with that 100%. I appreciate you articulating that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Abby, for your question. Other questions or learnings people had here?
I had a great experience with the model. And when I worked with Porva, we went, she's a bulldog. She is just diligent.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I needed to move through without overthinking anything. So the model helped me, and her facilitation of it was a very smooth outcome.
It can be kind of simple then. It cuts through kind of the spinning in the head, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So just having people externalize it and write it down, having something to look at to sort it, helps to get clarity. And it can make a big difference. So, I mean, the model is a tool, it's a support, and it just helps us to see what's going on underneath the surface for people.
Now, I found the being question was so very helpful for me with the issue of staying out of actions and next steps, because it kept me more curious about sort of the archetypes and ways of thinking that we create. And so I found that very helpful.
Good. Great, Sabra. Well, there's any observations or things you learned here? Or questions? Love the questions.
If you want, it would be great. Jeff, what do you think about having everyone just put one takeaway or one thing that you're going away with from this, something that's sticking?
Yeah.
And
thanks,
go ahead
Bev.
and put that in
You
the
read
chat.
my outline. You read my outline.
Well, we have been working together for a couple of years.
We have been. We've known each other a little while.
Don't tell them how long.
Yeah. The other thing to be thinking about too here is, well, that's that. I want to go beyond this. This was what are you seeing is the link between mindset and unleashing human potential? I actually love that question. I've been asking it for a long time. Keep finding new answers to it. So what are you seeing in the chat, Bev?
So what I'm seeing from Abby is a shift in mindset is powerful and allows for sustainable behavior change. Giving our clients a space to uncover this is such a gift and honor. And from Sabra, we've got the shift is in mindset, not behavior. Behavior is the symptom, not the source. I wrote that down too, Sabra. I just loved that phrase, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this has been really fun being here. And Mira, thank you for coming in. And Mira had a time zone mix up because she's in Finland, but I gave her a quick overview. So I love that you were here and we were able to go through that again, because I got even a faster version of how to present this. So that's a gift.
And Chris, I'm going to ask Chris Diller to drop that form that he dropped at the beginning in here in case you didn't nab it. Those of you who are wanting ICF, or if you're a member of SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, we also offer SHRM CEUs for this session as well as ICF. And our next Growth Rings is July 21st. Topic to be announced, so watch LinkedIn. This will not necessarily be published on the ICF events. So if you want to know about our events, always go to our page on events tab on our website. But you can also follow our LinkedIn, Center for Coaching and Organizations, because it'll always be popping up there. And then if you happen to think, well, I don't know about this Everyone Coaching and Organizations coach training program, and I don't know if you're like me, I'm a coach training junkie. I've been through like 3 different, maybe 4 different coaching schools and certifications, as well as taught in 2 schools. And it's still like, oh, almost never met a coach training program I didn't like. So if you're also just curious about what we're up to in that venue, our next ECHO open house is this coming Monday, the 23rd at 5 o'clock US Central.
Yeah.
Kurt,
And if
Hillary,
you're,
anyone else, something we're missing?
well, I think if that time zone isn't good for you for the open house and you want to connect and answer some questions for you about our programs, feel free to just drop me or Bev or the center a line, and we'll be glad to have a conversation with you.
And check the events tab, because we do have some open houses that are at 12 noon Central US, which could be a lot better for different time zones around the world.
Yeah. So with that, I love doing a one-word checkout. So just to hear where people are at the end, or 2 words. Cynthia wants 2 words. She got 2 words. No, I saw 2 fingers. Okay, but Cynthia can have 2 words. If you want 2 words and you want to buy a vowel, we'll give you a vowel too. So
I'm going to check out quick and say grateful. Grateful.
thank you, Cynthia. All right. So, and
Cynthia,
then,
pass
so,
it to someone.
oh,
Oh, she didn't. I'm passing it to Robbie.
all right.
There's a powerful shift. 2 words.
Great. Thanks, Robbie. Pass it on.
I will pass it on to Sabra.
I'm feeling inspired. And I'll pass to Sudeep.
And thank you for volunteering, Sabra.
Thank you, Sabra. My word would be learning. And I'll pass it to Robbie. I hope I'm addressing her correctly.
I've already gone.
Sorry.
So if you haven't,
This is Carol,
So-
and I say appreciation. Thank you, Jeff.
thanks. Oh, good to see you.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. It was like a really powerful process. I really loved it.
Thank you, Purva. Abby?
Kenzie, Lynn, Kurt, Abby.
My word is renewed.
And
feeling
Abby,
grateful.
I do have a answer to you on supervision. We're going to be getting going on that. So drop me a line, okay?
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
And Kurt, what was that word again?
Oh, gratitude.
Great. Hannah or Hannah, if you're still there, you want to pop off mute and give us a word?
Yeah, thank you. My word would be perspective.
Ooh, yeah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thought of that. Thank you.
And Lynn, how about you?
Just gonna say more clarity.
Great, Lynn.
And just because I came in just at the end, all I can say is even more curious. I was curious before, which is why I had to cover even a little part, but not even more curious. Thank you.
And I'm
All right,
tempted to say,
Kenzie.
oh, is there an overachiever, hyperachiever in there? 3 words instead of 2?
No, just pure interest.
Pure
There
sage
we go.
explorer.
All right.
Diller, you got a word for us?
I think it's like either full or complete or something like that. I'm feeling good headed out.
I'm going to throw in the word delighted to see all the new faces. I am just so smitten that you came today. And I hope you'll join us for another free Growth Rings event in the future.
Yeah, and that's I'm gratitude and love the new connections with people. And thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the CCO community. We hope you'll come back again, because we want to be a community that's, really helps and supports the growth of coaches and gives access to coaches worldwide. So thanks for being here, and spread the word. All right, everybody,
Yeah.
take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Thanks for
Thursday,
coming.
Friday.